everyone, welcome to Across the Park podcast, episode 12 of the 2021-22 season. Welcome to all our new viewers on YouTube. Hopefully we've got a few more for this episode, and thanks to everyone who has tuned in over the last few weeks. So I think we're into our third week on YouTube now, and the reaction's been fantastic. Don't forget to subscribe, please. It's really encouraging for us when we see the subscribers go up, and at some point it might mean that the podcast might be able to pay for a bevy, which would be fantastic, wouldn't it, boys? So please subscribe if you don't mind. It is a big help to us, and it does boost the self-esteem slightly when people actually want to listen to us or watch us. So again, we are still available on the podcast, so if you are listening, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Just a quick mention to our sponsors before we get started. As you can see from the colour coordination here, we've got the support of our clothing sponsors, Their Clothing. You can get 20% discount if you're looking for some Christmas presents for any of the relatives, or if you just want to grab some stuff yourself, you can use ATP20 at checkout to get 20% off. And I believe you've got some polos on the way to us as well, boys, so we're able to mix it up a little bit. Feel like we're able to wear some different clothes. And a massive thanks to our long-standing sponsors, Camper Kings, as well. Get over to camperkings.co.uk if you want to get yourself a little UK staycation, I think they call it. Jib, getting in the tent in this weather, definitely getting into one of their camper vans or one of their motorhomes, which look unreal, by the way. And again, thanks to the offer they're going to give you guys. You can get a bottle of champagne and free insurance if you check them out. Anyway, on to the main event or the main stuff. So for any of our new viewers, we've got two shows. The first show is reviews. We always get them two mixed up, don't we? Reviews of the past games, previews of next week's games, and then we've got a new show, which is Game On. So we have two shows a week. Game On is basically quiz time and a little look back at a week in history. So that comes out towards the end of the week as well. So without further ado, we're gonna start with reviews from last week's games, and that starts with Liverpool. So we're gonna hand over to the Reds first of all, Gary and Phil. So Gary, Phil, I guess after half an hour, it seemed like another routine victory, didn't it? But Brighton has other ideas.
Yeah, it was incredibly frustrating game. That's the first time I can ever recall being at Anfield. We're drawing and I wanted the full-time whistle to go. I actually felt like that, which gives you a feeling to how the game ended, which was quite different from how the game started, to be honest. Although they did show early signs of danger getting in. He forced a great save out of Alisson early on, didn't he? But when we went 1-0 up, and then when Mane had his goal rule offside, I thought, we're flying here. We're just going to go on to take these apart, and then all of a sudden,
wasn't it 2-0 when Mane got his disallowed? Wasn't that
1-0 up? 2-0 up, and then it was going to be 3. And at that point, I just thought, we're on our holidays here, sound. But
unfortunately, that's what it seemed like. The players thought that as well.
It did, Gary. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like it just completely changed, didn't it? The flow of the game, the tempo. Everything changed, and from that point on, Brighton just took strength from that and just went on and on and on and got better and better. For me, I know there's a lot of narrative after the game about Firmino and Curtis Jones. Everyone's sort of saying they were off it, and they were. For me, the big thing was the defense. Because we scored 2 goals. The reason we didn't take 3 points from that game was because of the defense. I think they're all at sea. I think they're just out of position. You look at that shot that they had early on, that forced the save. Van Dijk's in the right-back position. You've got Konate sort of in the middle of the pitch, and they're just through dead easy, and you're thinking, what's going on here?
Is that not a result in midfield, though? We're going to come on to the same thing when we talk about our game, but surely the lack of Fabinho and stuff like that is maybe having a bit
the thing that killed us, and I'll point everyone to our instant match reaction, me and Terry did straight after the game. The thing with Firmino and Jones was it wasn't just that they had a poor game, because not very many players had a good game for us, but they were like standout disappointing performers, because every time they got the ball, both of them, they were losing it. They didn't give us anything, didn't hold it up, they didn't let us get out when we were under the cosh a little bit, or when Brighton did try and attack. And then the times that you're talking about where it looked like the defence is all over the show, that stems from us losing the ball in midfield when we're trying to get out. So the players are like in a sort of structured formation. It's killed us a bit with the amount of times we lost the ball. It wasn't just them two, but for me, them two were the standout, and that's what you're seeing in most places.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were losing the ball, and it didn't help us, obviously. And when you lose a ball in transition, obviously that's when the team can be out of shape. I think there's a bit more going on than that, though, Gary. And I we'll come on to it in a bit about why Kanate started, and we've paid big money for him and stuff like that. So he should be ready, and he's had a couple of good performances. But for me, I just kept thinking, where's Kanate gone? And I'm looking around the pitch for him. I don't know if you picked up on that, but I just thought
not really. No, I thought he was one of the players that come out with his head held a bit higher than the others. Not much more, but I didn't think he was one to be looking at really myself.
Well, a couple of times I saw Van Dijk go into the right back position to cover Trent. In seasons gone by, you'd see Henderson doing that, wouldn't you? I found it weird that Van Dijk was pushing out wide to cover Trent and stuff at times. Felt like there was big gaps in between the defenders, and Brighton were able to find passes into those gaps. I think Trossard's a great player. Well, not a great player, but a real dangerous, little quick, troublesome player, and he caused us problems.
That was it for me, though. I think the players you were mentioning, and I've listened to you talking about it in between. There were a lot of the players that play well in between the lines, and that's why I was saying I don't know if there is a bit of an imbalance there. Do you know what I mean? And when you start talking about centre backs going across the right back, we've had the same, haven't we, Pricey? And you look and you think, all right, obviously there's been some really glaring errors on our side and maybe on yours as well. But when people are getting pulled out of position, it doesn't normally suggest it's actually their fault. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. We don't want to do a Sky Sports type analysis. We're not even capable of it. But just as a fan sitting in the Kop, I'm looking at that defence going, they're all over the place. As for why, it probably is about losing the ball in transition and stuff. And we haven't got defensive midfielders on. We've got attacking midfielders on. Curtis Jones, one thing I do want to say about him in praise of him is he was filling in behind Robertson, and he was trying to fill the gaps on the pitch that normally Henderson would be doing while Fabinho was sitting. This time Henderson was sitting and Jones was trying to do that. And credit to him for that, because he's an attacking player. So what I would say about Jones is that we're asking him to do something that's not really in his nature. That said, it doesn't excuse losing the ball all the time.
I was going to say that's fine if he was making mistakes defensively, but it weren't that. It was the passing and trying to get forward.
Yeah. But why did it change for you, Gary? Like, it started off okay, didn't it?
I don't know. I think it seemed like I said, we point people to our instant match reactions. It's a little bit more emotional than now because we've had a little bit more time to settle in on it and stuff. But yeah, I think it was just like me and Terry said, and I think it was just more. It seemed like it was going to be easy from early on. So I think they seemed like they just thought they were on their holidays, as you said earlier on. So yeah, it was disappointing to see, because it's not often you see that from a Liverpool side. Certainly not this one.
Yeah. No, I know. But you also mentioned on the instant match reaction that Alisson had a good game. That tells you a lot as well, doesn't it? We come out the game 2-2 with Brighton, and our man of the match is probably our keeper. So that tells you the sort of how the game went. Gary, I'm seeing some stick for Robertson. I've heard a few people say he's give up crossing the ball.
I wouldn't say he's give up crossing, but what I'd say is that we don't know what sort of tactical tweaks we're trying to make. People are obviously onto the fact that we play with our wing backs high, and there's got to be some sort of change now and again within games. So, you see the focus mainly on Trent trying to get the ball in, and Robertson certainly hasn't been as sort of, trying to put the ball in as much as he normally does. But as I say, you don't know what Klopp's trying to do. He tweaks things here, there, and everywhere, and 99% of the times they work. So I wouldn't harp too much on that, but it's certainly something to watch.
I think he's suffering confidence-wise with his deliveries at the moment. I can't imagine it being a tactical tweak to say don't get the ball in the box. And one thing that Robertson needs to be aware of is that his number 2, he's got a lot of assists himself already. He's put quite a few good balls in that have led to goals. So Robertson, and don't get me wrong, he still plays with a lot of heart. I wasn't disappointed in Robertson, even though he didn't have his best game. He was working hard to get that ball back. He was throwing the tackles in. He was isolated in defence at times as well. But he does need to raise at the other end of the pitch because he's now got a capable understudy, and he needs to find that again for us. But I don't think it was the attacking end of the pitch that caused us the problems on the day, was it?
No, to be fair to Brighton, I think they done their own work on us. They came into the game in the sort of towards the second half of the first half, and for me, they deserved the point. And if anyone was going to get the goal, as I thought they would have. So although we're saying it was 2 points dropped, by the end of the game, I think it was a point gained.
Good side, Brighton as well. They turned into a good little team. I was going to say that before. You need to give them credit for the way they played as well, because to go 2-0 down at Anfield and to come back as the way they did, I think you've got to say they did well themselves there. So as much as you're going on about you played not particularly well, I think you've got to give credit for how they play, because they seem to play well, particularly second half.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
We just heard the gong go off there, by the way. Have you heard the gong in the background? That was the Liverpool before we do man of the match, lads. Is it breathing Alisson?
If we're going for us, yeah, it'd have to be Alisson.
Yeah, I agree.
Any moments in the game that stuck out for you where you're like that was something that for us to cling on to? Or
I just thought the Salah's disallowed goal at the start of the second half. I just think if we could have held that on the pass, if we'd have played the pass a little bit sooner, the game was over.
Fair enough. Okay, well, Pricey, we are unfortunately going to have to move on to last night's 2-1 defeat at Wolves. Talk about a game of two halves, but before we do go on to like the, just looking at the moments in the game and stuff, let's talk about the starting 11 and I suppose the inclusion of Jean-Philippe Gbamin, which for most Everton fans is long overdue, but starting 11 and then maybe just briefly on Gbamin.
Yeah, when I seen the starting 11, I thought it was probably the best, considering the injuries, probably the best starting 11 we could have had. There was concerns about Gbamin, and we'd said before the game, how long is he going to last? Because he clearly couldn't have been fit to last the full game. I think in an ideal situation, he would have been brought into the game gradually, so he would have come on last 20 minutes for a couple of weeks and then started. But I don't think we've got anyone else. Benitez says at the end of the game that Delph weren't fit either. He shouldn't have really played half a game. So I think he was probably in a bit of a catch-22 situation about playing him. I think it was the undoing of us, and not eventually, from the very start. I think the fact that Gbamin was playing, Wolves the way Wolves played, they just seemed to have an extra man. Well, they did have an extra man in midfield or up front playing in between the lines, and Gbamin was off the pace. Alan was trying to overcompensate for him a little bit as well. And I think that was probably the main reason why we were so poor in the first half. Everything just seemed to lead from that. The fact that Wolves had identified that they could get in between our midfield and defence, in between the lines. And yeah, if we would have had a fit Gbamin or a fit Decore in midfield there, I think it might have been a little bit different, but he just seemed to be, and you can't blame him, he just seemed to be completely off the pace. But the starting 11, I mean, I wouldn't have complained about the starting 11 when I seen the team sheet come through. It was just unfortunate that obviously Gbamin was rushed back and he's not as fit as what we'd like him to be.
With that though, and I was trying to lead you in that direction. Everyone for me after 15 minutes could see there was a glaring hole in that midfield, and again, when I say everyone, I think anyone who watches any football could see that we were being overrun in midfield, and a manager as experienced as Benitez is, and someone who's renowned for making changes when he needs to make them, I would have expected something to happen there. And he didn't make any changes even on the pitch until we were 2-0 down.
Yeah, it did disappoint me. What disappointed me, he didn't even have to change the personnel, really. He just had to tell Alan to sit deeper, and that's all he had to do, in the same way Delph did in the second half. Yeah. So that disappointed me. But the players on the pitch as well, I mean, I know it comes from the manager, but if I'm Michael Keane or if I'm Holgate, Keane's just a more experienced player. That's why I mentioned him. I'd make sure my midfielders dropped in. I'd be telling them to drop in, or I think we could have pushed forward a little bit as well instead of sitting so deep. So yeah, it was obvious to see, and he changed it probably last 15 of the first half, didn't he, when he put Townsend in there? And then the second half we were much better and we looked more balanced with Delph. But the players as well, I think they've got to take responsibility for not having a word with each other and just saying, let's push forward a little bit from defence, or Alan, you just drop in. But I would have definitely liked to have seen a change, and then by the time it happens and we're 2-0 down, the game's pretty much over, isn't it? They could have had more as well with that offside goal. I think we got looked quite. I mean, he was offside, but we were lucky he was offside because it was
they had that header at the post as well.
Yeah.
These did have more moments, though, and I think I said to you in our WhatsApp, it'll be robbery if we get away with a point here, just because of how much better they were in the first half. And still, how many chances they were creating in the second.
Yeah, I mean, on the ball as well, we were sloppy on the ball. When you got your backs to the wall a little bit like that, and they were good left-handed towards. I thought they played really well, and they obviously had a game plan that they stuck to. But from our point of view, if you're playing in that type of game, when you've got the ball, you need to keep hold of the ball, and we just looked naive on the ball and sloppy with our passing. So that was the letdown as well.
There was definitely, I mean, the Reds have just spoke a little bit about it then, but there was definitely an imbalance in there, wasn't there? We didn't have enough defensively, yet we didn't have enough to kind of threaten them on the break. The players just looked really ragged and a little bit shell-shocked. And I suppose that happens, doesn't it? It happens at any level. If you go into a game and you feel after 10 minutes like you're being completely overrun in every area, you do start chasing shadows, don't you? And that's what happens.
Yeah, pulling players out of position and stuff. But that's when you need your leaders to get hold of it and just calm it right down, get hold of the ball, pass it along the back, make sure we just kill the game a little bit. We just don't have them type of players who can do that.
I mean, we have, haven't we? And I think Benitez spoke about it. And I think what we'd have to concede, and this goes back to my previous point, he's still learning about the players, isn't he? What they're capable of, who the actual leaders are on the pitch, who the leaders are off the pitch. If you look at Mina, Dean, Takore, even Calvert-Lewin to a certain extent, they do have an influence, don't they?
Yeah.
On the other players, and I think you can see at the moment that we are struggling with players to change games without those players in particular.
Yeah. Any team that loses the spine of the team, save for the goalie, is going to struggle, and we're no different than everyone else. As you say, I think he is sort of learning who we can rely on and who we can trust. There's quite a few there, but what noticed last night, the players were having a go at each other and on each other's backs, which I haven't seen for a while. And when that starts to happen, that's when you sort of realise something's going on there. That they're not trusting each other, or I don't know. They just, I don't know. They just seem to be on each other's back.
I guess you've got your players who are in the camp of this is what the manager's told us to do, and then you've got your players who are reacting to the situation.
Yeah.
And almost neither of them's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because if, as an experienced player or as a footballer, you've got to react to what's going on the pitch. But also you've got to follow a game plan. But if you know that game plan isn't working, that's why, I don't know, it's hard to know whose camp you're in, because I don't think the manager's game plan was right. But then at the same time, if you've got one camp going one way and one way the other, it's never going to work, is it? No.
And that's why you need to just unite. The manager needs to unite them and make sure that they're all on board, isn't it? But I mean, second half we done all right. Delph was the big. I didn't think I'd ever say it, but Delph was the big difference. He was brilliant. Exactly what we needed. Just slow. He done what we're saying there, getting hold of the ball, just keeping possession, making sure it ticks over, picking up the extra man. He was really good, and it was just frustrating that we couldn't have played like that in the first half, because as much as Wolves played well, if we'd have had that game plan to start with, which I know is easy in hindsight, I don't think they would have caused us half the amount of problems they did in the first half.
No, you're right, and the added thing of the second half is we are 2-0 down, so we are going to get stretched and they are going to get chances for the counter.
Yeah.
I think going back to learning about players, it was a bit of a damning statement for Davis, wasn't it? The fact that he got off the bench in a game where we looked like we were crying out for players to carry the ball, to keep the ball, another midfielder, and he hasn't moved off the bench.
No, he's given 2 half-fit midfielders and half each, hasn't he, rather than playing a fully fit midfielder the whole game. And you know what? I'm all right with that, because Davey has let us down time and time again. I'm sure he's a lovely person and all that, but he's let us down on the pitch so many times that it's like he can't be given more chances. There's more players that, given the chance, well, I hope given the chance, won't play either. That haven't to play because of necessity. So I'm all right with that.
Yeah, there's no tears shed over that.
No.
That he's shown that, listen, you had the full 90 minutes game. Watford is clearly looking back at the game, and as an experienced manager, he's had the chance to analyse some of those goals, and he clearly feels that the likes of Davis were very culpable for them. So happy days that he's noticed that.
Yeah.
But I agree, and you know what, some of the players did show a lot of bottle and fight in the second half. I mean, let's just briefly touch on what was one of the most embarrassing goals you'll see, this season in the Premier League, and that was the one where Jimenez beats Pickford. You've got 3 or maybe all 4 defenders that were culpable to some extent, weren't they, for that goal? I mean, Coleman may be excused because he's on the other side of the pitch, but you've got a pretty poor decision for the pass that goes across to Godfrey, you've got a dreadful first touch that puts him back towards his own goal. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was good pressure from Wolves, but it's a poor first touch, which means he's chasing it. And, you know, although that decision to go back for Pickford wasn't the worst decision in the world, the execution of the pass was, on his favourite foot, was dreadful. And then you've got, you know, Holgate on his heels. It was poor on so many levels, wasn't it? Just individual mistakes.
Yeah. Godfrey, I mean, it's easy to single out Godfrey, but in particular, it showed it was like a lack of concentration first. As you say, the touch. I know, like Phil said, we're not Sky Sports news analysts, but the touch just took him out of his feet and gone up the line. It should have been easier. The pass weren't the best, but it was good enough for him just take a touch and go up the line. That touch was dreadful. And then just Jimenez was there to be seen. It weren't like, you know, it weren't like he was hiding. He was there, and he just, as you say, the pass was just a lack of concentration. I think he realised that, and then in the second half, he's trying to sort of not overdo it. Yeah, he's trying to make up for it, and you just wish why weren't you just that switched on from the start. But yeah, the defending was poor last night. But as I said before, it was a mixture of things. It was having that extra man in midfield and the defence sort of being a bit at odds with each other, not really knowing who to follow and who not to follow. So yeah, it was just that goal in particular. But we got a question on. I know we're maybe not going on to social media yet, but I was going to
about the zonal marking.
Yeah, the zonal marking.
I was going to say we will touch on it in social media, so we will go back to that. We're not neglecting what was again another poor display from set play. So we will come to that, and we can both have our say in it, can't we?
What's Richarlison been like since you come back? Because I thought, like, obviously Rondon's been a bit of a stalemate for you going forward, which haven't given you anything. But Richarlison coming back surely should have made some sort of difference.
I mean, he only came on for 25 minutes or half an hour last week. He scored within 5 minutes of being on the pitch. Last night I thought he was a threat. I thought he was isolated. He's never great on his own, Richarlison. Like, he does need someone playing close to him. When you've got Alex Iwobi, who's your closest player, you know, you're on a bit of a hiding to nothing, aren't you? I thought he pressed well. I mean, you look at the goal that he nearly got himself, where he just chased the ball down. That's what you get with Richarlison, that you'll never get with Rondon. He's going to be a threat because of his pace, and he does, despite his sulking, he does always work hard, and he does always put a shift in. Sometimes that shift's a bit misplaced, but I don't think personally, considering he's been out for a while, that you could really fault him last night, his efforts anyway.
No.
That was a loaded question by Gary, the Richarlison hater.
No, it wasn't. I didn't see the game, so I was just wondering how he played.
Well, listen, let's move on to social media, because I know that before we do, Price, was there anyone that kind of come out of that game with any credit? Was it big fat?
Delph come on at half time and changed the game just in himself. That's it. No one else really, I don't suppose, played particularly well. Andy Gordon came on, had a couple of good touches, yeah. But overall, I think Delph's probably the only one who you'd say actually played well.
And you know what? You said it, but I've got to hold my hands up. I've hated Delph almost since the moment he walked through the door. He looked like he just came for a pay packet.
You know what, though, G? I always remember you saying that he thinks he's something he's not. But what Pricey just said there was he played it simple. I think it's when he starts trying to do too much, isn't it?
You know, that's all we expected from him. That's all we wanted from him when he came in. It's just some experience, you know, kind of help the players around and keep the ball, put his foot in where he needs to, give away some fouls, you know, where he needs to. And he done that last night, and he, you know, he was a breath of fresh air. And if he played like that, and more importantly, if he stayed fit,
that's the big thing. The fitness is the big thing. He hasn't played enough as we would have expected him to play, and because of that, he's been playing out of position sometimes as well. And it just hasn't happened for him. But
okay, well, listen, let's move on to social media then.
Okay, we'll start with that zonal marking question we got in from Site. He's asking for your input specifically on this, Judgy. He said it's easy to point at zonal marking and say it's our fault. We could go man for man, but if the players aren't attacking the ball, we're still going to concede.
Yeah, we're not like Pricey said before, and I think it's been pinpointed to me because I'm the one who kind of goes into a bit more detail, and it's just because of my job. But to keep it simple, Benitez almost said it, I think, a few weeks ago. It's about responsibility, and it's about going and attacking the ball. Whether you play man to man or whether you play zonal, you can't deny that. If players aren't going to be aggressive and attack the ball, then it does make things more difficult. The last time we played a zonal marking system was under Marco Silva, and it didn't work, and it never works when you change the system, very rarely. Now, last year under Ancelotti, we had a combination of zonal marking where players were playing front post or the corner of the 6-yard box, the middle of the 6-yard box and the other corner. So basically 3 players would play zonally and the rest of them would go mark man to man. And the 3 players who were left free were the ones who'd go and win the ball, like, you know, the real attacking players. But the big players would be marked as well. And that worked quite well for us because it's quite an easy concept to grasp. And your attacking players like your Richarlisons and Calvert-Lewin get to just go and win the ball. You don't have to mark anyone. And your defending players go mark, which is they're accustomed to doing. So that worked quite well for us. Obviously, Benitez is going on a full-on zonal marking system. You know, Carragher anyone who watched, you know, Monday Night Football will see a better analysis than I'm going to give you. But the biggest issue is responsibilities. Players not fulfilling their responsibilities in that system at the moment. So you've got blockers who aren't blocking players effectively. So the blockers are obviously trying to stop the men from getting a good run on the ball. We all know when we at footy at any level, someone throws the ball up to you and you're standing there and heading it, it's difficult to get any real power on the ball. If you're running and getting it, you know, running onto a ball, you can really get something behind it and you've got a better chance of scoring.
Quick one, does it affect the next phase of play? Because what I'm thinking is, Everton had an issue with set pieces. It was solved. Why change something that's not broke? Is it to do it because
the next thing, isn't it? You know, I think you said as well, Benitez had problems with set pieces when he first came in at Liverpool. It took maybe 6 months, a season to solve it. It is the players really grasping what the benefits are. And like Pricey was saying before, and we touched on, I think you've got a bit of a camp of the players who are thinking, I'm not having this. And they're half thinking, and again, this is me speculating, by the way, I think they're half thinking, the more goals we concede, the more he might have to change his ways here. They need to quickly realise that's not going to happen.
Yeah, they won't do that.
It's there to stay, and I think the only thing that's going to happen with players who don't buy into it is they'll just be out the side quicker than you know it, and that might be a thing, something that's related to Tom Davies as well. So in relation, look, there's loads of things that will happen when you have a new manager, and you'll say, we didn't used to do that. Why do we do it? So it's, you know, that's just something that goes with the territory, isn't it? Anything for you to add, Pricey?
No, that's it. I think that the issue with the zonal marking from Carragher pointed out last night is the blockers, the 3 blockers. They're just not strong enough and not doing the job well enough. And then what that leads to for me is then the guys who are on the edge of the 6-yard box who are the blockers, they have got to stand and jump. So when people, if Wolves runners, for example, can get in between our zonal fellas, then you've got a free header, and that's what was happening. But for me, it's the blockers that have got no real responsibility there. Townsend, whoever else it was, they just don't seem strong enough to be holding the ground.
And in fairness, you wouldn't have them, would you? I think that was the point that you were making. They wouldn't be the players who would be the blockers if we had everyone available.
No.
You would have like a Decore in there, who's obviously a more effective blocker, and you would have, you know, maybe a Calvert-Lewin who's another player who's in there who can maybe go and win headers. So there is a personnel issue in there as well. But look, I think what we've got to accept as fans, it's going to take time. It's going to be frustrating. I'm certainly not going to be one of them in the stands who's going, oh, it's sound that. You can see there's another goal, because it's frustrating, and you're thinking, look, just get it right. Just do something in the meantime to fix it. But, you know, we'll see.
Okay, we had another question. This one's from Danny on the website. He was gutted by Liverpool's draw, and he wants to know, why was Jota so late to come on when Bobby Firmino was having such a poor game?
I have no idea how to answer that. I was screaming for it myself. I just thought you could see there was a glaring opportunity for him there. We needed someone who was going to be in. He's one of them players, Jota, who he pops up in the right place at the right time. You know, he's got a knack for being his movement quality. He's good at holding the ball up. He's good at turning them round and going forward with the ball. It's exactly what we needed in the game, because every time it went up there, Firmino either lost it or misplaced a pass, or same with Jones, like as we said earlier on. Not just them either, like Salah had a rare off day. Mane wasn't overly great either. Certainly after the first 15-20 minutes. So yeah, to answer that, I don't really know why he waited so long. The only explanation,
one of them, Gary, where you just know he's not going to make a substitution before 65 minutes. Can't, no matter what's going on.
Sometimes he took Lovren off after 15 minutes against Spurs. So
I know it's been done, but typically though, isn't it? You won't
just
see
think it was another one of them for me. Like the Blues were just saying before, they could see glaring holes and glaring things that they need to change, and Benitez didn't change it. I just think Klopp sort of done the same thing. I don't know whether Jota got a little knock or something, and he didn't have that long in him. He only had a certain amount of time in him or something, and maybe there's something in that. But for me, he needed to be on earlier. I thought if he didn't want to bring, he had a couple of young kids on the bench there. That Gordon who plays in midfield. for me, the way I know he's only played against lower opposition, but for me, he's looked a great player, and if he's ever going to get a chance, it would have been then to come on and try and steady it, give Henderson a chance to go forward a little bit, rather because he plays in a holding role, and maybe that would have helped us out a little bit more. But yeah, but to the question, I don't know why Jota was held back so long.
Okay, Blues, I'll ask two in succession here. EFC Picks on Instagram said, I wish we went for Moyes. There, I said it. When do you realistically see our next 3 points coming? And then we also had a message from Jamie who said, all I'm seeing online today is Blues saying how we should have got Moyes in 2019 after Silver. Not sure about you lads, but let's not be hindsight merchants when it comes to giving Carlo Ancelotti the job. If I found out we could have had Ancelotti as a manager and the board decided not to, I would have burnt the ground down.
So, start with the last comment because it's a great comment. Look, any Evertonian would have felt like that. If we'd have had the chance to appoint Ancelotti and we went back and got a previous manager, it would have been seen as a lack of ambition. Loads of thoughts that came to mind. I don't think you can regret it. We said it even when he left. I don't think we could regret appointing him. We went to know that he had perceivedly, an intention of only staying a short time, being a stopgap. In terms of Moyes, look, I've said it a few times. I don't look back at his time with regret. I think he's done a fantastic job under the circumstances, and even look at the jobs he's done since. And he's very, he's conducted himself well. But I think whenever he's had that, that chance, and he's been given an amount of money, responsibility, and dealing with bigger players on bigger salaries with different expectations, I think he struggles. He's not at that point with West Ham yet. He's still riding that wave, and he's still doing very well. Would Moyes have got us to 7th and 8th consistently and had us beating the mid-table sides and beating the teams lower down the league? No question. Would he have us winning games at Goodison? Yeah, definitely. But would we be competing with the top 4? No, I don't think we would. And I still don't think he'll do that with West Ham. I just think that's his mentality. I think that's the way he is. I don't think he's a bad manager for that. I just think that's...
Yeah, that's his level.
Yeah, I just think our owners, there's going to be some criticism of the owners, rightfully so, and the management above the manager as in director of football and everything. But I don't think the appointments, bar maybe Marco Silva, have been appointments where you go, that's a lack of ambition, it's a poor decision. I think they've tried the best to appoint someone, but
the thing is with that though, you're in a bit of a process where you need to go from being that level of team to getting to trying to challenge in the top 4, and obviously you all eventually want to be challenging for titles and stuff, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But you need to follow a process. You can't just bring in Ancelotti and think, well, that's it, we'll be top 4 in a couple of years now. David Moyes probably would have been a decent appointment. I know it's obviously like the lad said on the message, it's easy in hindsight to say it, but it probably would have been a decent appointment for Moyes to then get you steady in that 6th, 7th, 8th position where you were under him, and then maybe bring in an Ancelotti or a more qualified man for the top 4.
I think the director of football needs to set a philosophy, doesn't he? And then the manager fits the philosophy of the club. Well, it's been all over the place for me.
That's what I was getting at, though, and I know the Ancelotti one was a bit of an exception, and maybe now Benitez is, because it's like, look, we need a manager who's got experience and whatever. But I think that was what the Marco Silva appointment was. I think maybe that's what the Koeman appointment was, where it was like, look, we need a player who's got a coach who's got the DNA of playing this type of football and bringing this type of player in and whatever. But they didn't work. So I think when you're the owner and the person who's putting all the money in, you need to. I think that what's happened then is then been a clash between the director of football and the owner, where the owner's like, hold on, I want someone who's gonna take the bull by the horns. And Ancelotti's, more renowned for that, and Benitez probably is more renowned for that. It does leave the director of football out in the cold, and I know we consistently have questions about that. But Pricey, what the Moyes thing, just to draw it to a close.
I mean, I agree with the second comment there. If we'd known we could have had Ancelotti, we went back for Moyes, there would have been hell to pay, because at that time we wanted to move up the level, and Ancelotti was seen as moving us up that level. I think just for me at the moment, whatever I need more than anything is just to have consistency with the manager. So just keep Benitez in, give him a few transfer windows, allow him to get rid of the deadwood, bring in his own players. That's what we need now. We don't need to be chopping and changing anymore. We've gone with Benitez. We've tied our, colours to the mast. Let's stick with him and let's see what he can do over the next couple of years. And that's where I'm at.
100%.
You've got to be majorly frustrated with this, because I'm getting frustrated by this, because this seems to be what you say all the time. But it's just a revolving door.
Ancelotti was the same, wasn't it? Ancelotti would have stayed and done it if he'd have stayed with us. And Benitez, I just want him to do the same.
Yeah.
Okay, next question comes from Chris on the website. And he just wants to know if the Reds are getting concerned about the lack of strength and depth in the midfield in particular. So, Gary, you look at the game of the weekend there. Keita's gone off. We've brought in probably our 7th choice midfielder in the Ox. Now, you would think to have Chamberlain as your 7th choice midfielder shows that there is strength in depth, but there, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
It's certainly worrying, especially when you see how we performed, the midfield performed at the weekend. If it stays like this going into the festive period, and you've got game after game after game, and we're struggling with just three or four fit midfielders, and it's not even like our first choice midfielders either, then it would be a bit worrying. But by all accounts, Fabinho's back in training and should be ready for, if not tomorrow, the weekend. Thiago, however long he'll stay fit for, I don't know, but he might get a couple of games out of him. Henderson hopefully won't pick anything up, but he's been one to pick up knocks lately as well, and it's just a bit worrying. Like, I think Terry said it on the instant match reaction again. Wijnaldum, the big thing with him was that he was never present in the team. No, he never ever injured. You could count on him for every single game, midweek weekend, forever. And I think now we're seeing how important that was for us with the injuries that we do pick up. And when we do pick up these knocks that our players seem to get, it's not just a knock for one game. They seem to be out for 3 or 4 weeks. And then when that happens and it's 3 or 4 players, that's when you start feeling it. And unfortunately at the moment, it's been one game, but you don't want that to drag on, because, as I said before, we're going to be coming into a busy period now, and we can't really afford to. We've already slipped to 3 points behind Chelsea now, and they don't look like dropping points. So you've got to make sure you're clinging on to them and don't lose ground, especially with knowing we're going to lose Salah and Mane in the January as well. Yeah. So
for me with the midfield, Gary, it's like you lose Fabinho or Henderson, and then you'll see them replaced in the match with like Keita or Ox, and you're thinking that's just a total change of plan. That's not like swapping a player for a player, but it's often a totally different approach because we have to.
I was going to say, but that's forced.
It's forced, yeah. And I suppose that's where, although we have got a large number of players there in midfield, and there probably isn't room for a lot more people to come in, but it's the way we have to completely change direction. And then even if one of them's injured, if Fabinho plays on his own or Henderson and he's with Ox and Keita, it looks like Fabinho or Henderson have half had a bad game because they're trying to do everything on their own in terms of the responsibilities of defending and shape. So, yeah, I agree. Terry said, didn't he, Basuma needs to come in when we sold Wijnaldum. Wow. Someone like that now would be making a difference.
So that was the point I was making about that young kid before, though. He's played a couple of games and looked like he could sort of do. Don't get me wrong. He's played in the Carabao Cup and against lesser opposition, but you never know what he can do until you put him in.
Yeah. Are you talking about Tyler Morton or Kate Gordon?
Morton, yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite ready, Tyler Morton for that level. But anyway, we'll move on to the previews then, Pricey. I mean, classic Everton. We've got Spurs of the weekend who've been pretty hopeless, just as bad as us in the last few weeks. And they go and get one of the best managers in the world, who's got a ridiculous record. Not only
is that confirmed, is it?
Yeah, he's got it, yeah. He's been appointed. So, Antonio Conte taking charge of his first game, 2:00 on Sunday. Of course, it's Everton.
Proper Everton.
I mean, for the neutral, it's obviously, and for general Premier League fans, it's great to see another, top manager coming back into the Premier League, and there's just an abundance of them now. But, even Benitez will be thinking, for fuck's sake, any chance? So yeah, let's focus on us, because I think we know what we're going to get from Conte. They're going to come out the traps. They're probably going to be instantly tougher to score against. But I think Harry Kane will probably be delighted because he didn't seem happy, does he, under Santo? But yeah, thoughts?
Exactly that. I think Spurs looked deflated by the manager. It looked like no one was really invested in what he was trying to do. And with Conte, there's going to be, even if he hasn't been on the training pitch for that long with them, it's going to be an instant reaction with them. I'm not sure who's back. I don't think anyone's back for us, is there? I think that our injuries to the main players are still going to be, Sundays, but still going to be out on Sunday. So it just depends who we. First of all, how much we can work on that defensive shape in terms of which midfielder plays and how they can work with the centre-backs and make sure that we get those lines better than we did and more compact than we did the weekend. But for us, I think it's just going to be a case of, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a scrappy game, isn't it? I think it's going to be a scrappy game. I think they're just going to be out the traps. We're going to be fighting. Hopefully, we're going to be fighting against it. And it's just hard to call at the minute. I just think it's really hard which Everton turns up, because I think that because it is a better quality team, we might turn up more than we have done against Watford and Wolves. But that's hopeful thinking. Probably, I don't really know what I'm expecting. It could go either way.
I've seen that with us, Pricey, in the past. There's been times where the spells that we've gone through where we've been diabolical, and you've come up against a good team and you play so much better, and you just think, why can't we do that every week? You might see that from you.
Yeah. We need a reaction. I thought we were going to get a reaction last night to the Watford game. We didn't get it, so you hope with a full Goodison that there is going to be a bit of a reaction there.
Yeah, I think what would be encouraging for the players is they seen the difference of just increasing the intensity in the second half, didn't he? Getting first to the ball and winning those 50-50 battles. It's basics, isn't it? But if you do that, which they've done in the second half, we looked a better team, and we looked the better team for a lot of the second half just by doing that. So you'd like to think they can carry some of that over. I've got a feeling Luca Dean might be fit for Sunday, which would defensively just give us a bit more balance, wouldn't it? I'm not sure who comes out, because we were all as bad as each other. I mean, you would expect that Keane will be the mainstay, because that just seems to be the pattern. And, does Godfrey go in just because of the fact he's got a little bit more about him than Holgate?
I think he would. I think Godfrey would go to centre-back. I think Holgate only played because there's nobody else to come in. Not that there's nobody else. That sounds unfair, but just because there was no one. I think the issue is going to be, as you said, Harry Kane. And when Harry Kane drops deep, and if he drops deep against us, he'll cause us all kinds of issues if we don't get that right and get that organisation right. In midfield, would you go with Delph? After yesterday, if he's fit enough,
yeah. If he can give us an hour, and then you can bring someone like a Davis or a Gabana. Can't even think about him playing again for now. But if it was a Davis who come on for half an hour, you might be okay, depending on the scoreline. But I think you've got to come in. I think you've got to start with him based on.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's just got to do the same role as he done yesterday as well. Just tell him to sit deep, keep it simple, keep us taking over.
He should help with that thing of getting the centre backs to push up if he has to. Even if he's just going to be a voice in there, I think it'll definitely help. By prediction, it's a tough one, but
I just go with a score draw, maybe 1-1. As I say, it could go either way, but with how we play and how Spurs play, depends which Spurs turn up. But I'll go score draw 1-1.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think if there was points on the line and we were doing the prediction league, I might go with Tottenham to win this one. but yeah, I'll go with 2-2, and just maybe Tottenham lose a bit of the discipline because they're getting excited. Okay, so briefly on to yours before we finish, lads. 4:30 p.m. We've just been speaking about David Moyes. Done another cracking job this season, and he's got them playing really well. A lot of threat for them. How do you see that one going?
Well, we've got Atletico tomorrow, haven't we?
Yeah,
so
of course. Buddy.
It probably makes sense to talk about it in that order, just in case. But yeah, I think, Gary, team selection is the interesting talking point for me. It's like, has Matip been dropped now? Is Klopp just rotating? Can you rotate centre half position?
I think for me that the thing with Matip is we've seen him in the past. We've complained about Matip about how unfit he is all the time, how little games he gets when he does get injured and stuff. So for me, I think it might just be good management of him. The fact that he's played so many early on in the season, at some point you'd expect it, and it's coming that he'll pick up a knock, some sort of injury, and they tend to keep him out for long periods. So I'm not too disheartened by the fact that he's been taken out a little bit. I don't think he's been dropped as such. I think it's just a case of trying to manage game time for our players. I would expect to see Matip come back in now. He's had a couple of games out and he's well rested, I'd have thought. So, yeah, maybe you'll see him against Atletico. I think the midfield, it just depends who's back fit.
Well, Thiago was training on Thursday, but he's had a long time out, hasn't he? So he was back to training on Thursday, and Fabinho come back on Monday. It all seems a bit too soon to me.
I certainly for Fabinho, I don't think you'll see him against Atletico. You might see Thiago, even if it's late on, he'll certainly get some minutes, I think. If he's not going to start, then you're looking at the same midfield again, aren't you, from the weekend? Yeah. And for me, if that's the case, they need to really buck their ideas up, because if they play anything like that, like they did against Brighton, then if Atletico turn up the way they can, they could cause us real problems.
Predictions for the Atletico one?
I think it'll be difficult. I'm going to go score draw. I don't think we'll win this one. I'll go probably 1-1.
I'll just say the Anfield factor will come into it, and I'll say 2-1 Liverpool.
He did enjoy the last trip to Anfield, didn't he? I mean, the rest of the world didn't enjoy it because I think it kicked off COVID. But yeah, it was. I
think the thing for me with this game, it's not the end of the world if we don't win it. It'll be a bit frustrating because it's on the back of the Brighton game, and people might start thinking, are we going to start tripping up a little bit? But it's not the end of the world. We've won 3 out of 3 in the group. If we come away with a draw or even a defeat, we are only 1 win away from qualifying in this group, and we still got Porto at home, who you'd like to think we can get the points there. So I think the way the squad is at the minute, a draw wouldn't be a bad result.
Okay.
And then West Ham, Gary.
West Ham away on Sunday then?
Well, West Ham are in good form, aren't they? But we can't drop points there to Brighton and drop points to West Ham. We just can't do it. The league's too strong. So, it's worrying. I'm quite worried about it.
It's definitely going to be a hard game, I think. Moyes, obviously, he hasn't got the greatest record against Liverpool. He'll certainly want that to change. But I just think, for me, you don't get Salah having 2 off games in a row. I just can't see it happening. I think if he turns up, that immediately puts you on the front foot. I just don't think we can be as open as we were against Brighton. I think we'll solve that issue. I fully expect us to pick the points up against West Ham, although they are a good side, and I do think they will cause us problems. I still don't think they'll have enough to get anything from the game.
I'm sure I'm underplaying West Ham here when I say this, but to me, Declan Rice makes Everton tick, and if he can sort of shut his game down, then you shut West Ham down.
Yeah, he's certainly one of their standout players, and he loves getting forward, loves being a box to box really, and I don't know. I just think I do fully expect us to have too much for them. Although they are a good side and they are doing well this season, I just think that they'll come up against a Liverpool who need the points again now with drawing last week. So I do think we'll win the game.
Okay, boys, we're in overtime, so I'm going to push you for a prediction.
I'm going to go. We'll get back to keeping clean sheets and we'll win 3-0.
I'll go 2-0.
I'm shocked that you think it's going to be that comfortable, but we'll see.
Might not be comfortable. I just think we'll get the goals.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our first show of the week. Catch our game on later on in the week, which again is a little quiz, and we'll be doing a look back in history. We've got a derby win for the Reds, which I'm not looking forward to, and we've also got a trip to Nuremberg to look back at for the Blues. So please tune in later in the week, and like I said at the start, please click the subscribe button at the bottom. It takes like a second to just click subscribe, and it makes a big difference to us. So please do it, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.